Welcome. You will be here because you've taken the quiz and you'll have had a result of which blueprint you were at that point in time, which I think for most of you will be your predominant blueprint unless you've done some work before on yourself. However, this isn't just the full story. We've been sold a myth and I want to break through it. I was sold a myth by the world of media, by the cinemas, by what I witnessed in relationships. Clueless I was with relationships, absolutely clueless. I thought I knew lots of things until I was 50. And then at 50, I realised I'd been sold a load of myths about relationships, about intimacy, and about sex. And a few other things as well, but let's just focus on those for today. Underneath, we all want to be close to somebody. And that's a primal urge to be close in community to keep each other safe. But it's also a beautiful experience to be close to somebody, to be intimate with somebody in a relationship. However, getting there it can often be a bit tricky because we have such a lack of education around relationships. And so what I'd like to present today here is for you some blueprints that will help you work all this out a little bit better, and some energies that it might be useful to know about, because when the energy field changes, everything changes. No matter what you've been told by all these relationship gurus, oh, you need to do this, or dating gurus, oh, you need to know this and you need to know that, and if you do this on the first date and if you wait for this amount of time. Well, not many people are talking about energy, and when the energy field changes, because it's time for you to evolve, everything can change, and that can be catastrophic in many aspects, because emotionally it would really touch you on a deep level and you might not really understand what's going on. So part of my work is to help you to understand a little bit more about what is going on. I've had to learn what love was all about. I've been born into grief because I was adopted. So I've had to really learn that, and I only really learned to actually fully meant to its capacity as I was passing 50. And from that learning, it's education that's going to help you to have a level of awareness. And with that awareness, you are going to increase the choices you have in your relationships and your behavior, your response to others. So it's going to give you more choice. And in that choice, it gives you the opportunity to make the changes that you want. So I'm hoping to break through some of these myths that have been created and to have a little gap, so that you can have a little bit more education around relationships. So in my ignorance, that was what influenced me in my relationship, not my choices due to the education that I had learned. So anyway, I've just spent years and years and years and years and years learning about relationships, because I ended up in a relationship with a sex and a porn addict. Let me tell you, it was a baptism. It brought all the shame up for me that I have in my personal life, from when I've been born, pre-birth, ancestral, all generational shame arrived on my plate that I knew nothing about. It's highlighted that I had low level intimacy. It highlighted me that I actually was a dependent and ended up in a relationship which was a trauma bond, and that was actually pretty rough, which was that relationship. However, now I always think there's wisdom in what happens. So there's a lot of wisdom that I gained, and I want to give that wisdom to you. And that is what I'm here to invite you to come on this journey, a journey to your heart, so that you can grow in awareness, you can have more choices and more awareness around the relationships that you're in. So let's start the decoding your love patterns, so that you can find your voice. And that takes some stripping back, because we are the voices of everybody who has told us things, ancestors that have passed all that information down, and everything that we have consumed in our media, but that's not really us. Underneath, we're beautiful, heart-led beings with a essence of pure joy and love and peace, and that often doesn't come out. So let's have a look at some things I think will be really useful for you so that you can focus on lifelong dating if you're in a relationship. If you are looking for a relationship, this work will give you information about dating and how to spot your red flags, green flags very, very early on. And it'll serve for conscious parenting, people who are conscious over parenting, because once you learn about your blueprints, you can pass this on to your children. I introduce to all my work when I'm working with couples is the concept of what actually a relationship looks like for me. Now, relationship, because I work with an understanding of energy, is that we have, this is you, this is your relationship. There's partner A, there's partner B. You can be partner A or partner B, whoever it is, it doesn't really matter. But that's your energy circle. It's nobody else's. It's not to share it with anybody. It's yours, solely yours. And guess what? You are responsible for it, nobody else. Your partner isn't responsible to manage your emotions. Your partner isn't responsible for the choices that you make. Your partner is not accountable for you. You are accountable for yourself. So each partner has their own level of accountability and self-responsibility to take on board themselves. It's not due to the other partner. This looks lovely, this sort of setup with a sort of two different energy circles, which represents each of the different partners in a coupled relationship. But that isn't the relationship. The relationship is here underneath. It's there at the bottom. That is your relationship. Nobody else's, right? It's partner A and partner B. It's a combined space. Now, if you're not sure about energy, the two main energies, because we're electromagnetic beings, so we have like electric pulses that we give signal out to, and there are thoughts, and we kind of then pull towards us the things that we need to receive. Now that can go a little bit out of balance, because some of these energies that we're talking about here, if you are an overgiver, you push all the time, and you're not pull. So you do need a balance of push and pull. So you can see if you're out of balance in any sort of way, that you're going to use the relationship to whole yourself, make yourself feel whole. That can't happen in that circle. It happens outside the relationship circle. In your circle, you are the only person who can whole yourself, not the other person. If you're in a trauma bond relationship, what actually happens is that you both have a sense of wholing together, which you've probably never experienced before. And it gives you this false sense of it being the one. It could even be the false sense of it being the twin flame, but it isn't the twin flame. It's actually, you're in a trauma bond relationship, you're totally out of balance, and you are sharing your wholeness with another because you've never sensed wholeness. That isn't necessarily love, because when you come into the relationship, you influence each other too much, because you can't come in a joint space, because one will be over pushing and one will be over pulling. These are known in terms of masculine and feminine energy. The masculine energy is a push initiator energy, and the feminine energy is a pull, the receivership. But in survival terms, because we're going to be talking a lot about survival here, is that it is a withdraw and a withheld. So you'll withhold your emotions and you'll withdraw into yourself, whereas the push would be going forward. And this is where you get the push and the pull, the on off relationships. So that's my metaphor. Right, here we go. We're decoding now. I'm going to go through the blueprints that you could have got in the quiz, and one was the overgiver. Look at the overgiver there. Oh, that's me, and I'm an overgiver. I've carried and have the capacity to carry quite a lot of people. And the overgiver overtakes responsibility, and will literally carry anybody's. If all that was baggage, they'd carry anybody's baggage. You see, your challenge for your overgiver is that receiving love feels really uncomfortable, really uncomfortable. So you can see this sometimes when people find it hard to take a compliment, because, oh my God, don't bring that. Oh, no, it's a little bit too risky for me. And they overcompensate by, would you believe it, giving even more. These are the people who break down. I've had a breakdown due to overgiving, but I didn't actually know how to stop. And they hold responsibility for others, which isn't really useful often when parenting, because you'll take over responsibility for the children, and the children don't grow and don't know how to take responsibility and hold on to their own emotions. Really, you end up in a sort of codependence or dependent children. In the terms of love seeking, you absolutely pour your heart into others, but you sacrifice yourself. Now, if you've been a Catholic, you might even end up with a blueprint. There are other blueprints, by the way, but I'm not going into them today. But one is called the Martyr. Now, if you're the Martyr, sacrifice is love. And you know, I've even said to my partner, my ex-partner, I remember in some mad argument, because there was that many of them, I would die for you. Oh my God, sounds a bit dramatic, isn't it? I look back now and I think, oh my God, the shame of it, as if I'm going to be going around dying for people. But that was a blueprint I was running at the time, not only the overgiver, the martyr. So the martyr, because I've come from a Catholic background, it really is instilled in that culture to sacrifice yourself for others. And in that case, you'll sacrifice yourself for your partner. It's actually no good, because often you're with a partner who won't sacrifice themselves for you. So goodness me, you're going to get worn to the bone with that one. Fingers with the overgiver are going to feel unseen and unappreciated and actually emotionally drained. Overgiving, you're only giving one way, you see. So you'll give until you're empty, but actually, what about you? If you are an overgiver, what about you? This is where the turn back into self comes, that taking personal responsibility for the relationships that will offer you rest, will offer you some peace, will offer you feeling held. And that is going to come not when your pattern is dominant over giving. You're going to meet somebody who's an overtaker, which is what I met. So the dominant energy here is push energy. It's the masculine energy of initiation, where you're fixing, you're pursuing, you're taking responsibility for the relationship, for the emotions, for the connection, for just about everything. It does have its advantages as well, so I don't want to say things don't have disadvantages. You're able to hold a lot of people in a big space and take responsible for them. However, you're going to be boundaried, and if you go back to looking at those 3 circles, they had a beautiful boundary around them, a perimeter, the perimeter of yes and no. That's my yes and that's my no. So when you can hold people in a big space, you're only holding them when you're in that space. You're not going to hold on to them all day long and all night long. You just hold them in that space for the time for you to hold them in that space. And that's often where some people get it gets a bit tricky with boundaries if you haven't got boundaries. So finding your voice in some way is about growing and growth. And you do notice at the beginning about Groovy Gran, that's the part of me which you'll find out a bit more in a minute. However, it's groovy because it's growth. So I'm all about growth. The warning is that you're going to have to learn along the way, or you might even learn along the way that your parents have created part of this. Only part of it. Please remember, because this is where the warning comes in. Because there's many parents out there who have got children who really resent them for how they were parented because of what they're going through. And that's a toughie, and I really get that. I've experienced that myself, and that's a dreadfully painful place to be. However, it's their journey to understand that the parents couldn't have done any other but what they did, and in some way that your gifts are in that parenting style to give you something to work, to fight out of, and to be your unique self. And this is where finding your voice comes in, that once you work out what the blueprints are, once you get to the bottom of how it's been created. For example, an overgiver was created from being put into a parental position early on with the parents, maybe with the brother, maybe with the sister, maybe with an auntie, an uncle, a nan, a granddad, whatever. They've been put in a parental position to take responsibility for somebody. And in that case, then what happens is you end up overgiving, because that's the nature of you, is to overgive and take responsibility for other people. You just think it's your way for whatever reason. However, to grow, how's about asking before you're giving? Break the habit of assuming and overgiving, because this is what's happening. You're assuming that people want to give you. What happens is you create an expectation. And if you are an overgiver, and somebody's lost the plot, I'm doing everything, well, they actually can't stop themselves doing everything, but everybody else gets used to them doing it and then expects it in the end. So ask before giving. Do I need to give here? Ask yourself. I'm not saying no without the explanation to create those boundaries. Let's get the enlightened no. And the enlightened no is a no that just comes from that lighter place, knowing it's in your highest interest to say no. Again, consider the outside of that energy circle that represents you. That's your boundary. Let's keep what's inside nice and safe and healthy and open for love. When you do learn about these blueprints, you can help it in your relationship, to help you to understand your partner, to help you to understand your parents, and to be able to explain to children what they're doing. If they're overgiving, if you think they're developing into an overgiver, how's about just asking? And I'll give you an example here where I've got grandchildren, and one grandchildren we came from the shops, and one grandchild absolutely stacked up high, carrying everything, and the other one was just carrying one thing. So who's holding the load? It's going to come out metaphorically. I just said, hey, if you need a little bit of help with that, maybe we could share the load between us. So it's a modeling as well of, could you ask for help? Could you share the responsibility? We all have blueprints due to one thing or another. This isn't about being ashamed of them. This is about learning to recognize them. And then you've got the awareness around it for the choices that you want to make in relationships. And if you don't want to meet an overtaker, you're going to have to work out how not to be an overgiver, you see. And then when you're in the dating arena, you're going to go, oh, red flag, oh, green flag, we could give that one a go. And all in betweenies, you're better to err in the side of caution, but you can still be a bit curious, because people can be deceptive, shall we say. People present themselves differently for several months at the start of any relationship, and then all of a sudden they just can change. That's a natural thing. Anyway, let's get on with our decoding. Here we go. Here's the fixer. Fixing anything there, look at that with the toolkit. But what you're doing is you're fixing because you want to avoid the emotions. So the fixer struggles to ask for help, similar to the one to the overgiver, but the overgiver is quite happy to hold a relationship. The fixer doesn't want to hold any relationships, just wants to fix. And in the parenting style that's come from, where they've been validated for fixing, so that instead of expressing the emotion, I'll fix it. So you don't talk about its sadness, the grief, the pain, you just want to fix it. So you're on this repeated path of fixing. In love seeking, you're the artist of keeping everything together. You're going to support people, you're going to rescue them, you're going to solve the problems, you're going to get your little notebook out. Oh, yes, I can do that for you. I'll write that down. I'll do this. Oh, yes, I'll be over and I'll sort it straight away, at the cost of your emotional needs, because you not only you stopping you might be stopping people. I've had this in relationships where one's a fixer, and as soon as the other person gets upset, not knowing about these, the constructs of a relationship energetically, they just how can we fix it? How can we fix it? Doesn't acknowledge the emotions at all, doesn't acknowledge the upset, doesn't acknowledge the sadness that they might be feeling, that they have to go through and feel it, and then come out of it with the wisdom. You have to go through the process of feeling it, because within all these situations there's wisdom with everything. There's a balance of it. So if you're fixing it, you're stopping the wisdom coming. You're stopping them emotionally developing. So yeah, you solve everything, but actually who's holding you in amongst this? Who's developing, who's giving you the space to develop your emotions and be held? And initially it starts with you, but in a relationship, when you move into the relationship circle, you're holding each other, holding me, holding you, without without filling the hole and overholding on either side. So true connection happens when you allow others, allow yourself to receive love and not just give it. Now you notice the overgiver and the fixer are both they're both push initiation energies. They're both fixers, pursuers. They move forward. They're the masculine. And these, if you are an over fixer, over giver, over masculine, you have to meet somebody who's over feminine, over receiving, to balance you out really, and it can be quite a painful process. So the fixer, pause before you start helping all the time. Just, is it yours to fix? And name your needs in this. What is it you need? What's your emotional needs? Practice saying this without guilt. What do I need in here? I've got a place here to be heard and seen and held. And it's everybody's destiny to experience being seen and heard and held. It's what we're born into. It's our birthright. And it actually comes at a cost, because you've got to work through the things that have happened to you in your own life to be able to allow yourself. Allowing is that state of receivership, which the fixer and the overgiver would really struggle at. So when we come to the dreamer, look, just dreaming away, just doesn't hold on to. See, the thing is with the challenge here is they hold on to relationships that just don't serve. There's no serving at all, but they hold on to the dream, the hoping, the imagine, that it's going to get better. That experience I had in the first 2 weeks where that person was lovely, and then, it's going to be like that. Well, no, it's not going to be like that at all. Read the signs early on. And in this love seeking, there is this deep sense of wanting to have the connection, but just gets lost in the fantasy, and actually lives in disappointment most of the time, because it can never live up to the fantasy. Now, when you fantasize like that, it's because you've come from a place of chaos at some point in the family. Now, to keep your own safety, you've gone into a state of fantasy, the fantasy world, and that serves its purpose at the time, because it keeps you safe when there's chaos going on around. However, long term, the only thing you'll end up with a fantasy is a nightmare, because you're permanently living with stuff that isn't true. You're permanently fantasizing that things are going to get better. So pop the bubble and see the reality, and that's really difficult. But if you actually know this is your pattern, you can start to practice. Is this deep love, is it real or is it an imagination? These are the questions, because real love isn't about waiting for perfection. It's happening in a peaceful, flowing way. It's about choosing partners that show up for you. It's about choosing partners who are committed to you consistently, not just here and there, consistently. So that's the dreamer. So the dreamer is a pull energy. So the pull is more of the feminine dominant. They withdraw, they withhold, they fear closeness, really, because they're afraid, because they've been hurt before, and they've been hurt, and that's their strategy. So finding the voice for the dreamer is about sort of being the now. There's a lot of things talked about the now, but if you can ground yourself in the now, what's going on right now? Okay, you could be a bit emotional because something's happened, and it's about, is that me fantasizing, or is that a reality? Nothing's perfect in the future. Let's be okay with now. And then it's validating discomfort. And real love involves conflict, awkwardness, fallout, discomfort. Oh my goodness, that is the foundation of my heart equation. All my work's based on the heart equation. Okay. It's not love and light, it's love, light, and shite. Love is an equal measure of light and shite. In that shite, in that darkness, in that suffering, in that pain, in the shadow self, in what you can't see about yourself, All in there are those gifts. Unless you can hold on to discomfort, and this is a massive thing for couples, to hold on to the discomfort of maybe having a fallout, but hold on to your own discomfort. Don't be reaching out for somebody to fix you, to rescue you. Hold on to the discomfort, and that's massive for each blueprint. But for for the dreamer in particular, can you imagine they've been in a fantasy world and actually it's uncomfortable to actually see the reality. What would you rather have? The real love or fantasy love? You never really have it, and you're disappointed all the time. It's a choice, but only through education and awareness. So here we have the shielded one. And the challenge is that they just push people away. Shielded one pushes the person away because they don't want to get hurt. Emotions coming towards them is like, oh my Lord, it's like a zombie coming towards them, zombie emotions. But the inner that have that inner conflict of craving closeness, craving that being vulnerable and intimate, and yet just no way. There's no way I'm going to risk it. And that's so they push it away. So they're fiercely independent and protective of if you're protected of your heart, very, very, very slow to trust. And this turns up in sabotage. You sabotage relationships. You're going to sabotage it in some way. In a way, the testing, do they love me? Do they love me not? I'm going to test them. I'm going to sabotage the intimacy in some sort of way. Intimacy for me means closeness. And then let's see what happens. And it's not down to the other person. Although the other person is a trigger for your evolution, it's up to you to put action in for your own evolution. So walls up. This is walls up, drawbridge, but no one's coming in, etc. There's nobody. Those emotions are like, not doing them. Safe love isn't about building walls and putting protective gear on. It's about allowing yourself to create healthy boundaries, and it's about boundaries for yourself. But it's about boundaries that you can put in place that allow you to connect without sacrificing yourself to be openly vulnerable, and creating a space for yourself where you're safe and you feel love, the love of you. The only way forward is the love of you, because your love needs to be as strong as any love that you have for anything. And when you have that, when you meet somebody else, you're going to meet somebody who's similar. Now, again, the shielded one, similar to the Dingle Wingle one, the dreamer, has this pull, which is the feminine-based energy. And yes, men and women, all genders, no matter who you are, transsexual, bisexual, lesbian, gay, everyone has masculine and feminine energy. It's the dance inside of you, the energetic dance inside that energy circle. Everyone has it. So it's very natural to have feelings towards men and women. It's very natural to go into receivership, because it's a safe space to be withholding emotions. That's your safety. But you then are pulling people towards you. Now, I'll explain a little bit more about that in a minute. But finding your voice is all about sharing those micro vulnerabilities. That's where you create safety from, in those sharing small truths. So you don't have to create deliver a sort of a massive trauma that you've gone through. And how it felt for you. It's just a little bit. Just reveal yourself slowly and be gentle. Feel as if it's like it's the bud to the blossom, isn't it? That just one leaf at a time is unfolding. And that leaf that unfolds each time, that petal, is you preparing to bloom. And this is where the voice is, that your voice underneath all of that, underneath all these vulnerabilities, is a most magnificent thing. Once you've found that, once you've got through these blueprints and you actually find that, now that means you can start owning it and speaking up from that place, instead of speaking up from the perspective of the shielded one, instead of speaking up from the perspective of the fixer or any others, the martyr, the wounded one, the the wallflower, the parentified one. There's a whole host of these. The seducer, instead of arriving or speaking from that viewpoint, you can speak, oh no, I'm not going to speak like the fixer. I'm not going to speak like the shielded one. Another growth point for the shielded one is to name the fear, is to actually really be in it. Name what's going on for you. I feel frightened, I'm going to shut down. Name it, own it, feel it. Feel yourself coming into that energy and what that feels like to pull away from your relationship. Hey, look who it is. It's Groovy Gran. The place wouldn't be the same without a little bit of groovy. Now, the little bit of groovy Gran is the evolver, right? And this blueprint has its challenges as well, can feel a bit lonely because once you realise a lot of these things, it can push you out of friendship groups. You can end up changing your job. You can end your relationship. You can start to realise that part of you is very small and you want to grow, you want to evolve. And they overdo the work. I've overdone the work, of course. Yeah, and you get frustrated with others. Oh, blimey, you get frustrated with avoidance who don't do the work when you're giving them the information. But there's the big learning thing. Only you can be the one to decide that you are ready to take full accountability for every single action, every single word, every single behavior, micro behaviors to the macro behaviors. All the behaviors is for you to be accountable for yourself in that energy circle. Let's go back to the circle, accountable for you. And in that way, you can start to accept the past and how it was perfect for you in your traumas to come out with the gift and the wisdom, and accept that people can only be who they are. A fish cannot become a dog. A dog cannot become a fish unless it's AI, and still that's fantasy. So the reality is you can't. Now here's what's a little bit different. You saw the others, they were love seeking. There's no love seeking here. It is because you have found love, right? There's a space inside of you that is love. Some of us think love's a gestation emotion, and gestation emotion as an emotion you felt from birth. It could even be anxiety is love for you. It could be trauma that's love for you. There's survival forms of love. They're all different forms of love, but the lower frequency, a higher frequency of love is the actual full, passionate self-acceptance and having and accountability. It's a really powerful place to be because you don't take responsibility for anybody else. You just take responsibility for yourself, and that is powerful. So you're not seeking love, because when you're seeking love, you're in lack. You might have the intention of wanting to be in a relationship. That's different to the seeking, because you have the intention of love. Now, it is an inside job, and you are reclaiming your power. You are facing the truths of who you are and where you came from, and accepting all of that. And the thing is here, your intention is to repair ruptures. So this is the ongoing thing, is that when you fall out with people, when you fall out with brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers, grandmothers, co-workers, whoever it is, you are focused on owning what was yours and in some way repairing the rupture, even if it is to say, well, we're always falling out, how's about we just have some space. And that is my way of sort of respecting myself and respecting you. You see, you can say stuff like that. You're not telling them that they're anything. You know, I'd like to be able to work it out in the future, but just at the minute I still feel a bit full of all the emotions, and that's for me to manage. Notice you're taking accountability. That's for me to manage. Well, I mean, with the evolver though, the thing is that you have to be like that to some respect, but also with family members, they're the biggest triggers. You haven't contracted to come down with your family unless they were your biggest triggers. They are a pot of gold for you, a pot of gold. You will never find your gold unless you go deep into your relationship with your mother, deep into the relationship with your father, deep into the relationship with your children and your brothers and your sisters. Work it out, own what's yours, pass back what's not yours. And that's massive, and it does take some time, but by golly, it's worth it. So the story stops with you. That would be something that I would say. I want the story of my abandonment to stop with me. I want the story of being emotionally unavailable, low-level intimacy, which was created from that moment that I was given away as a baby in adoption. I want that story to stop with me. I want the sexual shame story to stop with me. I want the shame story to stop with me. And that touches me even talking about it. Because the greatest pain is witnessing. I don't want to rush the emotions. It's always good to feel, even when you've worked through a lot of stuff, even when you've come to terms. But the greatest pain is witnessing your children in pain, or your grandchildren in pain. And that in itself is hard often to witness yourself in that powerlessness and helplessness. So then there is a desire to, for me, there's a desire to pass back everything that I've learned since I recognised all these blueprints that were playing out in me. And yeah, break out of what your own traumas to grow. And for family patterns to become aware of family patterns, to reveal secrets, secrets. This is another shame-bearing one. And to move forward, yourself and your family and the legacy that you leave is about growth, and it's not about survival, because all these patterns are based on survival. So, and it's holding, as I can hold now, both the pain and the gifts that I've been given. And I don't deny myself getting upset about it, because it's absolutely pants, really, when you witness that and know it had something to do with me. But the other part of me, the other part of the evolver that has the compassion, also knows that I didn't know any better. Like my parents didn't know any better. Like their parents didn't know any better. So what they passed down to me was their form of love, of which I readily received and now understand it in the form of light and shite. The light and the shite being the real true essence, that beautiful spot in the middle of love. And with the evolver, that it's the knowing, having a knowingness and a visceral sense of giving and receiving, so that you have this balanced magnetism. And if you can imagine the infinity moving like this, the sign for infinity, that's what should be moving inside the relationship, not only inside your own energy circle, but also inside your relationship circle. And it can't happen if you're overgiving or overtaking. So here we go for the evolver, for growth points. It is really a big thing to pause. Also honour when others aren't ready, and really honour them with your heart, really honour them and have compassion. And don't keep trying to drop it in here and there, which I've done that with my kids for years, and they never, I think they never listen. It's like, the drawbridge comes, it's my mother again telling me this. She's learned something else, right? God. So that's been a challenge. But hey, how's about modelling it? How's about doing and saying how you want to be? And the best way you can do with that is so that you have got, you're showing your children, showing your grandchildren. Hence the evolution of Groovy, Gran. Anyway, here we are again. And the key thing I want you to take away is that in these relationships, in these two partnered relationships, is that if you're out of balance, like the fixer would initiate, because of course the fixer would try and fix this one. Of course, they need fixing. They don't really. They need to be able to go in their own energy circle and take action for love in a way. Is that will withdraw. move away, and the overgiver will pursue and take responsibility, and the dreamer will withhold. So in both these situations, that the push and the pull is out of balance. So it's going to be a little bit like this, a bit chaotic. The relationship circle in itself probably won't look quite like that. It might look like it's going to explode at any minute, and there's conflict, and there's going to be fallouts, and there's going to be sulking, and there's going to be overgiving, and there's going to be fixing when not needed to fix, because they're in the wrong energy circle. They're doing it all in the relationship. They need to be doing it in their own. And I really hope that concept helps you to work out what's going on for you. But you see, with the whole of this, I want you to imagine that you're like a Russian doll, all right? And there's loads of parts of you, and all these parts are different blueprints, and each of them needs to be seen and heard and sort of acknowledged. And when you can do that, you can go, that's my fixer. Oh, it's the wounded one. Oh, I've gone into the seducer. Or, might be my favourite, this one. Gone into the performer. Of course, I'm in performance. That's a blueprint in itself. I mean, it's not the nature of this video, but the actual performer in itself is very useful academically, because you're going to perform, but you're going to get validated for that, and you might be somebody who stands on the stage. So you can use the gift of being on the stage, of being the performer. That's your validation. That starts very early on. So gifts again in it, but if you're always performing, who are you underneath that? You could end up with being the chameleon, you see. So you can just imagine here, if you look at these Russian dolls, some blueprints will be this big in your life, some blueprints will be that big. Weeny teeny weeny baba beanie. For many reasons, how you've been brought up, schooling, friendships, your experiences, there's a whole range of things. So be like Sherlock. The world is full of obvious things which nobody by any chance ever observes. It's from one of Sherlock Holmes's films, and what is really important about that is it is the observation of micro-behaviours that help you to decode yourself. Decode yourself if you're getting into a relationship. Decode yourself if you're already in a relationship. Decode yourself as a conscious parent. Decode yourself as a conscious professional, which means that you can also support people if you are looking after maybe vulnerable people in their relationships. Very useful for decoding. Here I am, in my little heart. Well, it's actually a big heart, actually, isn't it? So, don't buy into the hooks. Remember, you are governed by energy. No one is the expert of you. No one is the expert of your relationship. You're here to manage yourself with accountability. Your relationship is being created to balance you out. With awareness, with the education to give you the awareness, by noticing those micro behaviours, so that you are in a position to become aware, to expand your choices in relationships and how you behave, so that you can have the change you want, so that you can have the relationships that you want in your life. It was a painful few years for me, and I don't wish that upon you. I wish you wisdom. I wish you the wisdom that you can take part of this away. It's my invitation to you is to take part of this away and make good use of it in some way. Take it, use it, apply it to your dating, apply it so you can suss out who people are before you meet them. If you know you are a giver, you're going to attract a receiver. That's just the way it is. Because you'll be magnetized. Magnetism, you pull together. So if you are in more of a receivership mode, for whatever reason, could have been over-parented, you see, so you haven't fully emotionally developed because you're afraid of the emotions, you're going to meet somebody who's going to manage your emotions for you. No, do it yourself. Start to grow. Come into your heart. I really want you to decode your love patterns, distinguish which are survival patterns and which are the love patterns that you want. I want you to find your voice. I want you to be you. I want you to find your voice and own your voice and speak up. Saying no when it's time to say no. Saying yes when it's time to say yes. Being vulnerable when it's time to be vulnerable. That's what I really want from you, or for you. And then you can date from your heart and ultimately live from your heart. Because you can't live from your heart if you don't actually know what your heart's saying. And your heart tells your head that you're safe. Your head doesn't tell your heart you're safe, because this is a programmed vessel up here. It's your heart that tells you you're safe. And you're only going to find your heart in your energy circle. Nobody else's. Stop seeking. Come inwards. It's your time. I hope this was useful, and I can only invite you to start decoding. I cannot believe I've gone all the way through this training without going into some sort of depths about the impact of not talking about sex, the impact of pornography, the impact of not being predator-wise. So my next bonus training will be aimed at that.